So I suppose what we're seeing here, that during that time of lockdown, demand wasn't destroyed. That there is pent-up demand now in the market from both from home movers, essentially, buyers and also renters coming back. Give us some numbers, really, some indications of just how we compare to this time last year.
Well, 5.2 million visits, so that's a big number for you, isn't it? Obviously, as we went into lockdown, we'd had the best start to a year for 4 years. Plus, then the busy spring market was curtailed. Plus, during lockdown, a lot of people have probably looked hard at their homes and their new lifestyles and said, you know what, this home probably doesn't suit me. So sales inquiries only 10% below the figure that we'd normally see in a market as well. So people are not just looking, they're inquiring too. Obviously too early for sales to happen, but a doubling in the number of properties that came onto the market in that first day as well. So some pent-up demand there.
Yeah, you know what? I'm looking for a new place here in Berlin, and I asked the real estate agent. She said the market, they're doing a lot of action right now, a lot of business right now. My question was, are there people who, you know, as a result of this crisis, are forced sellers? Do you see that in London?
Not yet. Obviously, it's early days, and one of the differences to other downturns is that this is a non-economic underlying reason, and obviously we've had policies such as the job retention scheme, so that should lead to a larger restoration of employment that you would get out of a normal route out of recession. And obviously it does depend on lenders. If they're showing forbearance, which they did in 2008 onwards, then you don't get the forced sales. Obviously, there will be some people through unfortunate circumstances that have to sell, but we don't see it as that sort of recession, and we didn't have large price rises going into this downturn either. So untypical in terms of previous downturns.
Miles, we've seen a sudden jolt to our lifestyles, haven't we? And many people working from home in ways that they had not previously expected they would be able to, perhaps. I wonder if you're seeing in the search criteria that people are using any signs of a more permanent change in our lifestyles. Are people less interested in being near transport connections, for example, more interested in extra bedrooms for studies? What's going to be the changing pattern of demand that we see here?
I mean, this is really fascinating. I mean, it's early days and we're all hoping for a vaccine to make travel restrictions short-lived, or I say we all are. There'll be a lot that are enjoying not commuting home to work. But if working from home more often than commuting becomes the long-term norm, then obviously that has an effect on demand and through that pricing. But we've already seen people looking for places where you're further away from traditional commuting towns, countryside, and indeed we've got keyword search on Rightmove, so looking for versatile accommodation where there's home workspace, more important, I'm afraid, than motorways or stations at the moment that enable easier commuting.
I wonder, you know, we saw commercial real estate getting built up at a record pace going into this pandemic. Is there still going to be need for that, Miles? Because we hear from people like Jess Staley at Barclays that a lot of the workforce can continue to work from home.
Yeah, it's been a reset, not only of people's habits, but actually a reset in terms of thinking. Obviously, it depends on what industry you're in and productivity, but higher demand to work from home means less demand for commercial office space, and it'll be really fascinating to see how that works out. And if you've got a team working, you may decide to get them together once a week physically for a meeting, but the other 4 days could be at home. And if that happened, then obviously you can rotate and hot desk, and it means less demand for office space and the associated things that are around that. It's very early days yet, but that could obviously be something that companies will be thinking of, because there is going to be pressure on overheads out of all of this.
Yes. Miles, how is the move towards virtual viewings going then? I guess there are going to be teething problems. I mean, is anybody actually going to... Most people will need to do at least one physical viewing, won't they?
Yeah, the government advice is wherever possible you should do a virtual video viewing as your initial viewing of the property. Obviously, the announcement caught everybody by surprise. So one of the first jobs for estate agents and lettings agents is to go out and build up a library of long-length viewings. Luckily, with mobile technology, you can do that pretty easily. And that will actually help. We talked earlier about different working practices. That will actually really help estate agents to become more efficient. So less physical viewings, more video and virtual viewings, and that means that when you actually go to physically view a property, you've built up a short list, and obviously you're a more serious buyer as well. So quite a change in estate agency working practices and home mover practices, as well as the wider economy and impacts that will be there because of that as well.